Last time on Casino Royale with cheese.
There's a guy that's sitting there watching the radar, and he's sitting there watching sumo wrestling on his TV while he eats a bowl of noodles. Yeah. What are we get? Should we have this guy like building PlayStations there too? Are there any other Japanese stereotypes we could squeeze in here?
We gotta make sure the audience is tracking that he's Japanese.
So they hit this thing, the ship starts to act crazy, everybody's running around. I wanted to say a Chinese fire drill, but that's culturally insensitive.
Very much so. Yeah. How dare you?
And now, the conclusion.
Houston, we have a problem.
I have a really bad feeling about this.
A boy's best friend is his mother.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Silent breed is people!
Yo, Adrian! Adrian!
Let's put a smile on that face.
I gotta warn you, Clark. They don't play the same games here as they do at them regular casinos.
Royale, too. I'm a reformed rabbit, a better bunny, a happy hare.
Welcome back to Casino Royale with Cheese. This is the show where we discuss movies that were number one at the box office exactly 20 years ago. My name is Shane. Joining me today is the world famous drunken reprobate. This is Mike.
What the fuck is a reprobate?
I actually looked it up because I knew you'd ask, and I'm not gonna elaborate on how I knew that, but let me see. I even screenshotted it on my phone. A reprobate. An unprincipled person, often used humorously or affectionately. So
You basically nailed me then.
There you go. That's it right there.
All right.
Like I said, we discussed movies that were number one 20 years ago. However, we have Godzilla. For whatever reason, people wanted to watch that movie 2 weeks in a row.
I don't think it works like that. I think it just got good numbers for 2 weeks. I don't think like everybody went 1 week and then went back the next week.
Well, I know I didn't. But yeah, no, it was number one for 2 weeks. Figure that one out. Needless to say, week number 3 wasn't a happening thing. But instead, I actually elected to watch a movie, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So
yeah,
there you go.
First of all, before we get too deep in this, there's a couple things I want to clarify.
Yeah.
So Shane and Taylor, you guys still had not had a baby, true?
Not unless my wife is downstairs having a hard time right now, no.
All right, so the baby has not been born, and Nicole and I are not expecting. I know last week was a little confusing on the podcast, and we're not having a baby right now, no.
Right. Mike and his wives are going to go halvesies on this baby, so.
Yeah.
No, unless Nicole was keeping, like, the greatest secret ever, and then I would have a reason to laugh at you.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, really unpleasant for you at least. You'd have to get used to it, we'll say that, so. But, yeah, so no baby yet. If you follow us on, like, Facebook, I'm going to put up some pictures whenever he arrives. So if you like babies and you like Facebook and you like us, pretty narrow group there, but
all three of you will be very happy.
Yeah, you'll like that. So what's your familiarity with Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Michael?
Okay, so I said at the end of the podcast last week, like, I was nervous to watch it because I remember the movie so fondly.
Right.
But I hadn't watched it in years. I watched it. It came out in '88, so I must have been 9, no more than 10 years old when I saw the movie. I remember thinking it was awesome, but at the same time thinking, like, I shouldn't be allowed to watch this.
You've got babies smoking cigars. The main character's like an alcoholic. And like there's murder and all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we watched this Friday evening in the house, and Nicole asked me if she thought Pharaoh would be able to watch it. And I was like, I don't think so. Let me look up the rating on this thing. And it's a PG.
Yeah, it's PG. Yeah, there's not much to it. I was surprised that they got by with what they did in a PG. Because I can think of a lot more PG-13. Like, for example, like Lost in Space is PG-13. And I think that this has a lot more questionable stuff in it than that, you know. But
questionable, but it's more like suggestive than it is anything else.
It is. Especially when you get around to like Jessica Rabbit's dialogue and stuff like that, you know.
Mm-hmm. They don't really do anything. Like, the craziest thing is maybe baby Herman smoking a cigar. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some substance abuse, but that was...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's adults doing it.
Right. Yeah, it's not like... Well, at one point, he, like, thanks the kids for the cigarettes or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't actually ever see any kids smoking cigarettes or anything either, you know, so
yeah.
It is what it is.
But, yeah, so I watched it again.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm anxious to find out, because you were saying you were hesitant as to how well it stood up. And so
well, movies for me have been getting destroyed in this show.
Yeah.
Like, even movies I kind of remember liking, when I watch them back now, I'm like, this movie was terrible. So,
right. Especially ones you haven't watched in a while.
Yeah.
Like Forrest Gump, I mean, that's a good movie. You know, like I knew going into it that I was going to enjoy it. I've seen it several times, and I always enjoy it, you know. Right. So, yeah. But for me, go ahead. Oh, okay.
What about you?
Well, I was just going to say that I don't remember the first time I saw this. I remember not being allowed to watch this from my parents. They found it highly questionable, and they were not down for that. The only thing I do remember is I went to the theater to watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and they had like a little Roger Rabbit short before it, one of the little cartoons.
Oh, really?
Like, huh, yeah. On the DVD, actually, I don't have the Blu-ray, but they included all the little shorts that they would put before the various movies as like a little advertising campaign. But apparently they made like 3 separate cartoons, kind of like at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
And yeah. And so, yeah, they're doing that as a form of advertising. But I like the cartoon, you know?
Right.
But whenever I did watch it, I was kind of like you. I was actually really surprised to see all of the... You know, it was a novelty at the time, and I guess it still could be considered that way to see like Bugs Bunny, Mickey Mouse, and Donald Duck and Daffy Duck interacting. You got Porky Pig running around and Woody Woodpecker and all these different studios combining forces, basically.
Yeah, I wonder how they did that.
I know how they did that, actually.
They have because there's 2 big scenes where you have a Disney and a Warner Brothers character like interacting. And
right. And then at the end of the movie, it's like everybody, you know. So.
Right. I don't know if it had ever been on screen like that before.
I don't think it has. That was it was a novelty. What happened, I guess, was that so this was directed by Robert Zemeckis, and he did all the Back to the Futures. We have already discussed he did Forrest Gump, you know, and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So this was his baby. And it was produced by Steven Spielberg. And Spielberg, he had worked with, you know, tons of different studios at the time, and he had a real good rapport with them. And basically, he's the one that roped all these different studios into lending their animated characters for this movie, you know. So he kind of pulled some strings, basically. But
I'm sure, like, it's hard for me to think, but this was when Disney was dying in the 80s. And Warner Brother wasn't putting out new cartoons, I don't think.
I don't think so. This is right before The Little Mermaid came out. So they were basically rapping on death's door at this point, you know.
Yeah. So it kind of maybe was an attempt to revitalize all of their cartoon.
I think it could be. Yeah. A little nostalgia for people that, you know, whatever. But
well, it works in this movie.
It did work quite well, actually. So with this, it's actually based on I did a little bit of research. There's some interesting stuff this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this movie, is because of some of the different stuff that I've gone on to notice about it. But it was based on a book called Who Censored Roger Rabbit. Mm-hmm. It came out in 1981, and basically it has very few similarities to the overall movie, or the book has few similarities to the movie. Essentially, in the movie, spoiler alert for the book, and I guess the movie, because we're going to talk about it too, but in the book, the Roger Rabbit actually turned out to be the killer, and he winds up dying at the end of the book and all this other crazy stuff.
What? That's way different than the movie.
Yeah, really different, yeah. And that's why I always thought it was weird, because I knew about the book, and I was like, well, why did they change it to Who Framed Roger Rabbit? And then you look at it, and you're like, oh, he wasn't framed in the book. He actually did it, you know? So, but there's some different stuff that I've come to notice about the movie in recent years anyway. Did you notice any sort of any type of racial overtones, really, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, for me as a whole, it felt like tunes were looked at as, a
different cast or something.
Yeah, a different level of people, or like existence. They weren't on the same level. Right.
There's go ahead.
But there's a lot of like racial overtones like throughout the film.
Right. There's a growing number of people, and I guess you could say that you could probably lump me in that category, but there's a number of people that have speculated that the movie, and I guess the book was a lot like this too, but the movie has a lot to do with like Jim Crow laws back in California in the 1940s and 50s.
Okay. And
you see stuff like, it's just the movie doesn't have it in its forefront, but you can still pick up little stuff like that. Like whenever R.K. Maroon's talking about how he got the Dumbo on loan from Disney and stuff, and he's like, he works for peanuts, and so basically he's hiring like this, he's underpaying employees and stuff like that because they're different. Or if you go to like the Ink and Paint Club or whatever, it's humans only, but they have like tunes that are the bartenders and the waiters, and they're performing on stage, but they're not allowed to go in there and drink and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's little stuff. There was even, I guess, back in the 50s, I did a little bit of research. I guess in Los Angeles, California, there was a deal where there was a neighborhood that they called Sugar Hill. That apparently what had happened is basically some of these, black people went through and they started to move into this neighborhood. People that had money and stuff like that. There was Hattie McDaniel. She was in Gone with the Wind, and Ethel Waters. And they started to move into this Sugar Hill neighborhood, and people actually tried to buy them out of their homes and stuff like that. And then finally, they wouldn't move, and so the whole neighborhood wound up being rezoned for like multiple family housing, and they started just basically calling it a slum. And then the city council got together and they like tore the whole thing down and built a freeway there. So you could actually say that this is, kind of true to life. It's definitely an allegory for it. So,
as we get through the film, we're gonna point out a lot of the stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah.
It rings pretty true.
Yeah, it does. But I like too that's not like, it has a good story, but it's not like preaching at you or anything about it. It's just saying this is, the tunes in this are a representative of another sect, basically, or something that actually happened, essentially, So I find it interesting. But anyway, no, this was directed by Robert Zemeckis, music by Alan Silvestri, who did the music for Forrest Gump. Basically, it stars Bob Hoskins and Christopher Lloyd. There's a couple other people, like I guess Joanna Cassidy plays his little girlfriend Dolores, and you got a bunch of voice actors like Charles Fleischer did Roger Rabbit, Benny the Cab, and I think a couple of the Weasels, and then Kathleen Turner did Jessica Rabbit. So there's
She did. Unmistakably so.
Yeah,
Like the first time Jessica Rabbit starts talking, you're like, "That's Kathleen Turner."
Yeah, and apparently she was really pregnant at the time. So rock and roll.
Really?
Yeah, but what else was I gonna say? I guess I don't remember. That doesn't matter. But let's see. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Oh, I did want to say Bob Hoskins. By the way, this was one of like the first movies that ever did any kind of the technology that they were working with on here. And I think that it's interesting, and there's a lot of attention to detail that I really enjoy. Like whenever, like Roger Rabbit has like Eddie Valiant in the cuffs, and they're basically cuffed together or whatever. And you can see like the little handcuff like moving and stuff like that. For every single interaction that there was supposed to be with like a puppet or something like that, they had to build some type of animatronic thing that would go through and like move the handcuff, or like whenever Roger's like eating popcorn at the movie theater and like just spilling popcorn all over the place and stuff like that. They had like all these animatronics that they had built that would like spill popcorn and wave the box all around and stuff like that, And Bob Hoskins said that after a while he was working in front of a green screen so much that he started to hallucinate and he actually was thinking that he was like seeing the Weasels and stuff like that. He said he said he took a year off from acting after this movie just to like recuperate.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. But anyway, why don't you take a stab? First off, this movie was made on a budget of $70 million. Any guesses as to the number of weeks it was number one?
I have no idea. I'm going to say 3 weeks.
You were close. It's actually 2 weeks, but they weren't consecutive weeks, though, which is kind of strange. Yeah. It went from first at the box office, and then it dropped down to second spot, and then it went to third spot, and then it jumped back up to first place after like a 3-week hiatus. So that's kind of weird. Any guesses as to its total domestic take?
123 million.
You're not far off. It was 156 million.
I don't ever know what I'm guessing with this stuff because, like, am I guessing how much it made opening weekend? Am I guessing?
No, it's total.
Am I guessing how much money it made as a number one movie? I don't ever know what the hell I'm guessing. Honestly, I'm just throwing numbers out there.
Oh, okay. No, we're looking at the total domestic take on the thing. But
it's still making money domestically. So
what do you?
Every time the DVD sells, it makes a quarter. Or
something.
No,
I'm just talking about how much it brought in at the box office. But.
Okay.
In the U.S., but I guess worldwide it brought in over almost $330 million. So it did pretty well for itself. Yeah. Anyway, anything you would like to add before we go down the rabbit hole here? There you go. We're deep already. Start us up.
No, I think you already kind of put us in the rabbit hole, so I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like a Bugs Bunny or something, yeah.
The movie opens with a cartoon opening, kind of similar to like what Tom and Jerry cartoon would open.
There you go.
Yeah, and it's Baby Herman and Roger Rabbit. Something's cooking. That's the name of the episode that we're getting ready to watch. And I'm going to fast forward you through this episode pretty quick here. But there's a lot that goes on in it. Okay. So, the mom is going out for shopping or whatever. And so she tells the baby, okay, you're going to stay right here. And your friend Roger is going to take care of you. And she turns over and looks at Roger Rabbit. She pats him on the head. She goes, isn't that right? Or you're going back to the science lab.
Wants a cookie.
So she threatens to send him to the science lab, and he's like, oh no, I'll take care of the baby. And he starts going on all the ways he's going to take care of the baby.
It's actually a pretty funny little cartoon short.
Baby escapes from the crib, goes into the kitchen trying to get a cookie jar. And and hilarity causes him to fly into the oven where he's burned, and then he flies out of the oven and spins around the room a bunch of times and into electrical sockets where he gets electrocuted until hot sauce falls off the counter and pours itself directly into the teapot, which he drinks, and then it makes him freak out, so he flies across the room and he hits this thing that caused knives to go flying after him, and then he hits a vacuum, but it's on reverse, so it inflates him like a balloon, which then he flies around the balloon like a deflating balloon, to the point where he finally gets to he hits underneath the fridge the baby's on, just in time to catch the baby, even though the fridge is on his head, and the director yells, "Cut!"
Right. That's pretty good. Pretty good analysis of it.
Well, I mean, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, it is. But you were fast about it, so props to you. One thing I gotta say, so they actually did, I think, a pretty good job of nailing the style of the cartoons back then. However, because I could see this being like a Tom and Jerry or something, but the animation is way better than it ever was in any of those. Like, the animation's pretty solid in this deal, but
well, I mean, it's come a long way since those original films, you know.
Right, and this is a movie. You know, you can't have guys up there looking like idiots. You know. So. Apparently, the director's pissed off because the script called for Tweety birds, and Roger has stars flying around his head. And so,
no, opposite. He
is that
stars,
what it was?
not Tweety birds. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And this is when this is where it's revealed that Roger Rabbit is an actor.
Right. Yes. So these are cartoons interacting with people, basically. Yes.
Baby Herman is a full-grown man in the size of a toddler.
Mm-hmm. And he likes cigars, and he's a bit of a womanizer. It looks like all that stuff.
He's from New York.
Right.
He's got that real gravelly voice, you know.
Yeah, he does get it subverting expectations right at the beginning here. Mm-hmm. So we see where basically Roger's like trying to plead with the director because he doesn't want to get fired, whatever. And he walks by Eddie Valiant, who is what's Bob Hoskins' character, and basically he's trying to go through. He's been called up to talk with the owner of the studio, R.K. Maroon. Basically, apparently, the Roger Rabbit's wife, Jessica, has been fooling around on him, and it's caused him to he keeps screwing up the lines, and he's underperforming. Basically, he's already over budget on this cartoon. R.K. Maroon is, and so he wants Valiant to look into the whole situation with his wife cheating on him, basically, Jessica Rabbit. And so, what happens after that?
We're in Hollywood, 1947.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. He gives him $50 up front, and then he's going to give him the other 50 after the thing.
Valiant, he says he doesn't work for tunes.
Right.
Go on and on, but basically, Maroon talks him into taking the job.
Right.
So they settle on $100 total, 50 up front, 50 when it's done.
Right. And so
that's when we see Dumbo.
Yeah. I think that's interesting, the whole Dumbo thing, because Valiant's looking out the window at this chaos that's going on with these tunes outside, and all of a sudden these big bright eyes pop into the window. And I think you kind of find out what the deal is with the eyes later on, why it freaked him out so bad, you know.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I see that.
It obviously caught him off guard, but there's a whole thing with like eyes later on that he's freaked out about. But
yeah, but Dumbo's there. Valiant looks out the window, and there's tunes fucking everywhere.
Yeah, marching around. It looks like a little tune marching band, like little bass drum marching around and stuff. And yeah,
there's a bunch of Fantasia.
The little brooms. They got the hippos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a group of cows standing around, and they're standing in line to go into a cattle call audition.
Yeah. I didn't notice that. That's funny. I like it. So that's whenever he says, R.K. Maroon's like, see, I can pay him in peanuts, you know, and all this other crap, you know, and you're like, oh, okay. So he basically, people that are unlike him, he, tries to get by with paying him the least amount that he can, you know. So he goes to hop on this trolley, basically, go back to his office, and the guy won't take it because he doesn't have cash. All he has is $50 check, and so he just sits on the back of it. Gets back to the office. That's when he tells the kids.
you can't pass over this with the kids. So he's on the back of the trolley with these 3 kids, the street rats kids, and they say, "You don't have a car, mister?" He's like, "Why would I need a car? Los Angeles has the best public transportation in the world."
In the world, yeah.
Okay, if you're not from there, but there's no public transportation really in Los Angeles. They're trying to get it back.
Oh, really?
And yeah, they're working. I'm sure it's gotten better since I left. But when I was growing up in Southern California, when this movie came out, there was no real public transit. Huh. And apparently, it used to back in like the 40s.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but the automobile, like they pushed it in California real heavy.
Oh, everybody having a car?
Yeah, so it became like it's a car town. Like LA is a car town, and now it suffers from some of the worst traffic in the world.
Yeah, of course. Which is they harken back to that later, where he's like, traffic jams will be a thing of the past and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
which is funny. But that's whenever he arrives at his office and he hops off the back of the trolley. That's when he tells the kids, "Thanks for the cigarettes," all this stuff.
Yeah,
pretty funny. And then he decides instead of going to his office, he's going to go over. You can see where they're actually replacing. There's a little trolley station that's across from his office, and they're replacing the sign on it that says Cloverleaf Industries.
Yeah, they're replacing the red car trolley service with Cloverleaf. Yeah,
right. And so there's a little bar that is right in that same building, and so he goes over there. And that's where his little girlfriend Dolores works. And I like Dolores. I think that she could do better than Eddie Valiant, but he's just an old drunk. But she loves him. What can he do?
He wasn't always an old drunk.
No, he wasn't. You get the impression that they even allude to it pretty quickly, but things used to be going a lot better for him. But anyway, he borrows her camera. Apparently, he owes her some money that she loaned to him out of the till in the bar, and so he borrows her camera. Says that he'll pay her back. He's got this job that's going to pay him all back and everything. All of a sudden, this dude, I had to write his name down, but it's Angelo, because this is this and one other scene are the only scenes that he's in. But he starts giving him a hard time about working for Toons, basically. And, of course, Eddie Valiant doesn't have any kind of sense of humor about that. And then you find out Dolores, Angelo's like, well, what's his problem, And after Eddie Valiant kicks his ass, and then Dolores says, a Toon killed his brother, dropped a piano on his head. And, yeah. We go to the Ink and Paint Club after that, because that's where Roger Rabbit's wife works at, the Jessica Rabbit.
Jessica Rabbit?
Yeah. And
got a great scene where Donald and Daffy are in dueling pianos.
Such a great scene, man. Such a great scene.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's iconic. And that's when we see, what is it here? Marvin Acme. Apparently, he has this love of Toons. He comes up with all the stupid props that the Toons use and all the cartoons and stuff like that. And
if it's Acme, it's a gasser.
It's a gasser, yeah. He does the hand buzzer thing. He does the hole in the wall stuff, and one of them
disappearing ink.
Yeah, reappearing ink. He uses.
We don't know that.
We don't know that yet, though. He uses this disappearing ink though on Eddie Valiant's shirt when he squirts it on there, and of course Eddie Valiant's about to kick his ass, and then he's like, "Look, it's gone. It's disappearing ink." And so, anyway, they sit down. The stupid Toons. There's these little penguins that are the servers at this club, and he asks for a scotch on the rocks. And of course, he says, "I mean ice, not actual rocks." Bring him rocks anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, he still gets a drink with rocks in it.
Mm-hmm. But you could even argue that there's that little bit of racism in there too. Where he sees a Toon and he naturally assumes that they're going to screw his order up. I mean, just little subversive stuff like that, I think.
Well, even when they do bring him his drink with rocks in it, he goes, Toons.
Toons, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, he doesn't have much love for Toons.
Which you could also make the argument that, so whenever we find out that this Toon dropped a piano on his brother's head, that would be, now all of a sudden he like blackballs anybody of that type, you know. So you could even make the argument that you could even look at it as being racist, you know.
Yeah, I think that's why they tell us so quick in the movie that his brother was killed by a tune.
Yeah,
to like kind of help us understand why he doesn't like tunes. Like otherwise, you're like, what's wrong with this guy?
Just a grumpy old bastard. Yeah,
right. But because his brother was killed by one, you're like, yeah, okay, I'll give it to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You see Betty Boop, which is kind of nice.
In black and white.
Yeah. He actually, that's throughout this whole part of this movie, because he's, once again, hating on these tunes. He's the only one that, or Betty Boop's the only one that he's nice to, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
I think, if I was to guess, I would say it's probably because he, like, grew up with her, basically. Because she's old black and white tune, you know. But, yeah. Anyway, so after Donald and Daffy get done doing their dueling pianos thing, which ends up with like a cannon blast from Donald to Daffy, yeah.
I like how Daffy was like, who can understand this guy? Like whenever Donald's like talking trash, Daffy's like, I don't even know what you're saying. It's pretty funny,
right? Which is something we've always, like, everybody's encountered as a kid, basically. Do what now? Yeah. So it's funny though, because right after that, everybody starts losing their shit over Jessica Rabbit, and at this point,
they're going crazy for Jessica Rabbit. By the way,
you kind of, if you haven't seen this before, go in watching the movie assuming that she's a rabbit, you know, which is funny because her last name, and then you're like, oh, that's Roger's surname. You know, so that's why she's called that. But no, it's this really just very, very, like, maturity was very good to this woman.
Oh, God. Are you having a hard time with this, Shane? She's like 6 foot tall, redhead.
Right.
All her face is just lips and eyes.
Very curvaceous.
She's got, ridiculously large breasts, the tiniest of waistlines.
Right.
A derriere, long legs with a long slit up her dress. She's a very sexily drawn cartoon character.
Yeah.
Here's my thing, though, man. My whole life, like, people will talk about, like, how hot Jessica Rabbit. She's still a cartoon character.
That's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm not saying here fapping over a cartoon character, you know?
No.
It just doesn't do it for me.
It doesn't. Not me at all.
And I'm not passing judgment, man. If Jessica Rabbit, if you like that, or like hentai, whatever you're into is cool with me. But that's not my thing.
Oh, you hear my dog barking? I guess someone's at my door.
I hear that.
I think Farrah just got back from her play date.
Oh, okay. All right. What's his name? Did you ask him?
Her name is Mila.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then. So this whole...
Yeah, so Jessica Rabbit, she does the whole song and dance number.
Right.
And she, like, is really playing up to Valiant.
Mm-hmm. She's playing with his necktie and stuff like that, yeah. Like,
I wonder how they did that scene. Because, like, his coat moves when she moves her hand there. She, like, grabs his tie.
Right.
All that stuff. Like, there couldn't have been animatronics doing that.
No, it is. I'm pretty sure. What they would do is they would film these animatronics, like, messing with his jacket and his tie and stuff like that. And then what they would do is after they filmed it, they would have these animators go in and draw the picture over it. So basically it, like, secluded the animatronic that was messing with all his stuff. Which is crazy. Yeah. And I know that I've actually seen interviews with Bob Hoskins, and he said that basically whenever you go to, like, grab Roger Rabbit or whatever, or, like, around the neck, he's like, you had to keep your fingers together. He's like, because if you didn't keep your fingers together, then now all these animators have to go in and, like, draw Roger Rabbit in between all your fingers, you know, and you just cost the studio, like, thousands of dollars in man hours, you know. It's crazy, man, the stuff. This was really groundbreaking visual effects wise, you know.
You know, though, but they did it in Mary Poppins.
They did, but there wasn't that kind of interaction, like the immersion that you get.
They just danced next to each other.
Yeah. Which is that was groundbreaking at the time as well, you know.
Yeah.
But,
I had to think about that though, because when I was a kid, I'm pretty sure I thought that was the only movie that ever did it, and obviously there's been other movies that have done it, and I think Mary Poppins was among the first.
It was. I know there was a dance scene, and I don't remember. I I don't think it was Fred Astaire, but there was a scene where there was a guy that was dancing with Jerry from Tom and Jerry, and I know that was really early on, like back in the early 50s. But yeah, as far as like a full length thing, I think it's Mary Poppins and pretty much this, and then like you had Space Jam and stuff like that later. But you have to remember that they couldn't use computers at the time either. You know, like computer effects just weren't there for this. You know, back in the late 80s. So.
Well, they do a good job throughout the film. The interaction is great on with the characters.
Oh yeah. Right after Jessica Rabbit gets done singing, Eddie Valiant notices that Marvin Acme gets up to go to her dressing room, and so he follows him over there. He tries to peep in through the keyhole to see what's going on. And then the gorilla, that's the doorman, basically bounces his ass out of there. Calls him a peeping Tom. Yeah. And there's another thing right there where he's like, don't let me see your peeping Tom face around here again or whatever. And he's like, ooga booga. And you could be like, oh, that's kind of like a racial slur against this tune, you know?
Yeah, Valiant did the ooga booga, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he made a comment when he walked into the club about his monkey suit.
Yeah, nice monkey suit, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he's not very cool.
No, he's definitely not. So then,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so he immediately, oh wait, Farrah really wants to say hi. Come in. Oh. Hey, Farrah, come say hi. She has to say hi. She just got back from her play date.
Oh, okay.
Farrah! Come here, baby. Did you have fun? Mm-hmm. All right. Say hi to Uncle Shane.
Hi,
Hey, Boo Boo.
Hi, Uncle Shane.
What up?
Hi. Give me a kiss. Okay, Daddy's recording the podcast, okay? So go back in there and I'll come see you when I'm done, okay? Okay. We're recording, so.
Bye, Farrah.
I will wait for Dad.
Anyway.
Pardon the interruption.
No, it's all good.
We live real lives here, guys.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Mine not as exciting as Mike's, but whatever. Where Eddie gets thrown out of the club, the Ink and Paint Club, we see where there's a window right there where he's able to look in and see what's going on in Jessica's room and all that stuff. And she's playing patty cake with Marvin Acme. Yeah. And they're really getting into this patty cake. At one point, I don't know if you picked up on it. She's like, "Can you take the buzzer off this time?" She's talking about his buzzer.
Yeah, well, he was like, "You promised we would," and she's like, "Well, all right, but take off the hand buzzer this time."
Yeah, it was pretty funny. But they're vigorously playing patty cake while Eddie takes pictures. We cut back over to R.K. Maroon's office, where basically Eddie Valiant has shown the pictures to Roger, and he's heartbroken. Obviously,
he's taken so many pictures that like Roger Rabbit's like flipping through them like super quick. Right. It's like real time of them playing patty cake.
Yeah. It was a pretty funny little sight gag. I like.
Yeah, I like it.
So yeah.
But yeah. Rogers loses his shit.
Yeah, he's really upset about it. They're basically trying to console him or whatever. Valiant asks for the rest of his money, and then they offer Roger a drink, which you wouldn't think would factor in, but it does. But anytime I guess he ingests alcohol, he just like freaks out.
Turns him into a steam whistle.
Yeah. He is up in the air and he's screaming and his eyes get crazy and stuff like that. It's pretty funny.
It literally turns him into a steam whistle.
Mm-hmm. Like breaking all the glass and shit.
Yeah, he's like, woo! And like everybody's like covering their ears and dishes are shattering and windows are breaking out.
Right. Yeah. So he basically, as Eddie Valiant is trying to leave, he's trying to like console Roger. He's like, there's plenty of other dames out there and stuff like that. And that's whenever Roger says that him and Jessica will be happy no matter what. Is basically what he tells him.
There's only one dame for me.
Yeah. So it's right after that, Valiant goes back to his office and he's looking at the photos on the picture. The pictures that he took.
Well, Roger Rabbit shoots out of the office.
Oh, yeah.
And leaves a perfect Roger Rabbit outline in the window.
Mm-hmm. And then you see him kind of like crying to himself and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's sitting on the I don't know where he's at, in the alley or something, sitting on like a box.
Looks like it.
Or
yeah.
A dumpster, and he's like looking through his wallet, and he's looking at all these photos of him and Jessica Rabbit together.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess whenever Eddie Valiant had borrowed Dolores' camera, she hadn't gotten the pictures developed from the trip that they took together. And so he starts going through the pictures, and you can see him. He's getting real, he's getting a little bit uplifted at looking at the photos. And then the next thing you know is he sees a picture of his brother that went along with him, and he's noticeably distraught about that. Starts reminiscing about his brother. Falls asleep with a drink in his hand. And then Lieutenant Santino wakes him up the next morning.
Well,
and,
we see throughout the office and stuff, they used to work for cartoons all the time.
Right.
Like, they would solve crimes. They got Goofy off a charge.
Yeah. Which is funny. I like that.
Yeah, I can't remember, some cartoon baby, they saved him from a kidnapping. Like, they used to work for cartoons.
Yeah.
So he didn't always have the views he does today.
Mm-mm. Nope.
And that's when Lieutenant Santino wakes him up.
Right. And he wakes him up, basically tells him that Roger Rabbit killed Marvin Acme. And so he takes Eddie Valiant to the Acme warehouse where the crime supposedly took place. I guess a safe got dropped on Marvin Acme's head, which is...
Yeah.
Somebody died, but it's kind of funny at the same time. So
no, it's funny. It's meant to be funny, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it is.
The Acme warehouse, it butts up right to the border of Toontown. So it's the first time we get a peek at Toontown. Yeah. And literally, like, everything in Toontown is animated.
Right. We see,
everything.
Yosemite Sam.
Yeah, he comes flying over the fence, and his biscuits are burning.
Yeah. It's great. I still use that stupid phrase, so yeah. Yeah, he puts his butt out in a puddle and all that. It just looks like mass chaos over in Toontown, as you would imagine.
It really does look crazy as fuck.
It does.
Yeah, so that's where we learned that the safe was in fact dropped on the head of Acme.
Which is funny. They got a little like chalk outline, and then like it goes right up to the corner of the safe. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, but, there's no evidence that there was a murder there other than the chalk outline.
Right. Yeah.
There's none of the like blood and gore that would be present.
Nope. It's just chalk. It's right after that. Like the guys are going through. The investigators, they're like checking out some of the props and stuff, like the hammer with the punching glove in it. The boxing glove. The hole in the wall. They're called portable holes. There you go. Portable hole.
It's a little black circle you could just slap on whatever, and now there's a hole in it.
And then stick your arm through it, yeah. They used to use them all the time in like the Warner Brothers cartoons and stuff, but yeah.
One guy's just walking around with like a cartoon-looking TNT stick in his hand.
Mm-hmm. There's it's right after that they're getting ready to gurney Marvin Acme's body out of there, and they knock over this big box full of shoes and boots and stuff. I think that it's funny because there's a pair of like really shiny black boots, and they're goose stepping like Nazis.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not notice that.
Man, it's pretty funny. Apparently they found a piece of rope that has yellow paint on it, which alludes to Roger Rabbit's yellow painted gloves. And then I guess it falls off of the hand of Marvin Acme, his dead body. Like this buzzer falls out, a stupid hand buzzer. And that's when Eddie Valiant goes to try to pick it up, and we see where this weird looking, like just a vampire looking dude,
Judge Doom.
Yeah, Judge Doom like zaps his hand with this stupid cattle prod / like cane that he carries around with him. He's a character, man. He's wearing this black trench coat, black hat, these I guess they're not that weird looking glasses, but just decked out in all black. And basically he wants to know, I guess he has these weasels that he works with on his Toon Patrol that they can't find Roger. And so Judge Doom asks Eddie Valiant if he knows anything about it. And so then he goes through and explains that he's actually found a way to kill Toons at that point. And why don't you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, one of the shoes that you talked about earlier is still walking around, and it like walks up to Judge Doom and like a kitten. Picture like a kitten, like rubbing up against his leg. And Judge Doom reaches down, picks it up, walks over to the back of this like paddy wagon that the weasels are in, and says everybody thinks there's no way to kill a Toon. And they talked about it earlier in the movie about how you could drop safes on their heads and all this shit, and like they don't die.
To them. Yeah.
Yeah. But he found a way, and it's some type of acetone mixture, and he dips the Toon in there, and it just melts them away.
It just dissolves, yeah.
He calls it dip.
The dip. It's turpentine, acetone, and benzene. Do you know what those components make up, Mike?
I
paint
don't.
thinner.
I know acid. Oh, it's paint thinner?
Yeah, it makes sense you would kill a cartoon with paint thinner.
I mean, I know it. Like acetone. I mean, I've seen those things. I didn't know those combined made paint thinner, though.
Yeah. So right after that, Eddie Valiant decides he's going to go back up to his office, where he sees Baby Herman, and there's this very shapely woman that's lighting. She's like lighting his cigar and stuff, and so Eddie Valiant doesn't know what to think at first. And so anyway, he's trying to vouch for Roger Rabbit, and he says, I worked with this guy for 30 years, and he couldn't do this. He didn't have a violent bone in his body and all this other stuff. And basically, at one point, Eddie Valiant like pushes his little baby carriage, and he drops his stogie. He cries about it. It's pretty funny. One thing that Baby Herman did mention though is that Marvin Acme's will went missing, and so they think that might have something to do with why he was killed in the first place. Is somebody's trying to get a hold of that will.
Well, he says everybody knows that the will was made so that the Toons would inherit Toontown when he died.
Right.
Apparently, Acme owns Toontown.
Right. The only thing that I guess that would make sense, yeah, because we find out later what's going on with Cloverleaf and all that other stuff. I was kind of confused about that, though, until they brought the whole Cloverleaf thing into it, but I guess we'll get to it. There's a weird deal with R.K. Maroon, but we'll go into it. Anyway, he has a newspaper with him. Valiant does, and he like sits it down on his desk, and he's getting ready to pour himself a drink, and he puts it down on the newspaper, looks down and notices that it like magnified this picture where you see that Marvin Acme actually had the will in his pocket whenever he was patty caking with Jessica Rabbit, and so Valiant decides that he's going to lay down, take himself a nap, and then sure enough, Roger's in his bed.
Yeah, Farrah was watching this with us, and she was like, someone's in his bed before the reveal.
Yeah, you can see his big old feet sticking up under the sheets. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Of course, Roger says that he didn't do it. But he does happen to mention, though, that he was like, who knows that you're here? Because Eddie Valiant's concerned that he's going to get charged with like abetting a felon or whatever, or a fugitive. And so he's like, well, I couldn't find your office, so I asked all these guys, the butcher, the baker. I asked the guy that's on the corner selling flour. He's like, but I did ask the guy at the liquor store, and he knew where your office was, So, needless to say, at this point, everybody knows that Roger's at Eddie Valiant's office. And then he talks about this stupid love note that he wrote to his wife. Basically, he was really jealous, but he wrote this note trying to explain how much he loved her. He says that he found it on this random piece of paper. And so then Valiant tells him to piss off. And he goes into this closet, Roger does. There inside, he finds a pair of handcuffs, and he handcuffs himself to Eddie Valiant right whenever the weasels arrive. So...
And Valiant, for some reason, doesn't have keys to his own handcuffs.
Yeah, I lose keys all the time. I ain't gonna give him too much crap.
So the weasels show up. They're looking for Roger. Roger is now handcuffed to Valiant, so Valiant sticks him in the dirty clothes in the sink, in the kitchen sink, and he's acting like he's washing his socks. Mm-hmm. The weasels do a terrible job of searching the apartment and proceed to leave.
One important thing to make note of is that at one point, one of the weasels says, I think he said something like shit or something
Stop
like that.
that laughing!
Yeah. And so the Eddie Valiant like takes a bar of soap and sticks it in his mouth, and all the weasels think it's really funny. And he's like, stop that laughing. You know, you're going to laugh yourself to death and all this other stuff. Yeah.
It's a recurring theme throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm. Pretty good payoff.
Yeah, it's a good payoff. And so Valiant takes Roger to see Dolores.
Mm-hmm. He sneaks Roger in the bar.
We need to like move this baby along. We're so deep in the minutia in each scene that we're taking forever here.
Right. They have a secret speakeasy in the bar that they decide they're going to hide Roger in.
Yeah, it's left over from
Prohibition
days. Yeah.
Yeah. He thinks. Well, Valiant obviously knows that whoever killed Acme doesn't have the will, but he's pretty sure that that's what they're after. He does think that RK Maroon had something to do with it. And so later on, right after that, he asks Dolores if Roger can stay with her for a couple days. Jessica Rabbit goes to see Eddie Valiant because she doesn't know where Roger is.
Man, you're missing the good stuff here. Okay.
Am I?
So yeah. So
I'm trying to fast forward, but not effective.
They go into the Prohibition room, and Valiant gets a hacksaw and starts cutting off his handcuffs off his arm, and he tells Roger to sit still so he could do this. So Roger slips his arm right out of the handcuffs.
Right.
He could have took him off the whole time.
And so he can hold the box and hold it steady, whatever. Yeah.
Here's what I don't get. How did Roger get into Valiant's apartment?
He said through the mail slot.
If he can fit through the mail slot, then I know he can take his hand out of these handcuffs.
Right. But if I was Valiant, I'd be like, take your hand out right now.
Yeah. Yeah. You fuck. Take your hand out.
Right. It's not funny. One thing I do like about Roger Rabbit, though, is even though he's embroiled in this situation that's going on, this where he's been basically, accused of murder, is that he's still, like, at the end of the day, a toon. And so, like, he still does a lot of, like, screwing around and stuff like that. It's just pretty funny. So,
well, he said his that's what he was put on Earth for, was to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Like
so it's almost like a reflex.
Couldn't hurt people. I'm here to make people laugh.
Yeah. That's it.
That's him acting normal.
Right. Exactly.
So Jessica does come to see Eddie at the office. For some reason, Eddie doesn't have a shirt on.
There's a deleted scene that explains that.
Was he dropping a deuce or something?
No. So what happened was the Weasels. I watched the deleted scene a long time ago. It doesn't add all that much to it, but basically, the Weasels they get a hold of Eddie Valiant, and they're trying to get him to talk. And one thing that they do is to threaten him. And so they like put this giant like toon pig head on his head. And the only way that he can get it off is to go into the shower and use like some dip to like basically dissolve this head off of his own. And so he was in the shower basically whenever she arrived. But yeah, it's really strange.
He's got his tie and pants on.
Yeah, it's. I saw that too. I was like, why is he wearing his tie without his shirt? It's really strange.
He puts his shirt on and then his pants drop. Jessica's like kind of trying to seduce him a little bit. That's when Dolores walks in.
Right. She says that basically the RK Maroon wanted Eddie to happen to take those pictures, that basically it would give a motive for Roger to kill Marvin Acme. Basically, RK Maroon set the whole thing up. And he was
going to blackmail Acme with him.
Right. That if she didn't do it, she said that Roger would he was going to end Roger's career and all this other stuff.
Right. So she's doing it to protect Roger because she's not bad. She's just drawn that way.
Right. One of the most classic lines in any movie. Yeah. So right after that, of course, Dolores gets all jealous whenever she walks in and sees Valiant's pants are around his ankles, and this cartoon's clinging all over him and stuff.
Got a question for you.
Yeah.
Could a cartoon and a human get down?
I would think so. In
their world?
I'd be afraid of a vagina buzzer or something.
A vagina buzzer.
Right? Like a bear trap in her snatch or something,
Oh, God.
But I mean, if he can sit back and like grab Roger's ears and stuff like that, you would think that he could, play with their naughty bits.
You love to just go there, don't you?
That's it, man.
I asked a simple question, and you wanted to go into all the different things.
I mean, I personally wouldn't bang a tune, just because of all the weird stuff that would entail, I'm sure. But
well, I think Baby Herman is banging humans.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's got that girl that like is his babysitter or whatever,
Yeah, and he slaps her on the ass and tells her to do things for him. He says, "I got a 50-year-old lust and a 3-year-old winky."
That's pretty great. I love it. That would be awkward though, banging Baby Herman. I ain't gonna lie.
Oh yeah, you think?
That would be strange, man. But anyway.
So Jessica leaves the room and blows a butterfly kiss. Like it flies to Valiant and lands on his cheek.
Mm-hmm. It does. Of course, Dolores is hating him right now. Basically, he's able to smooth things over with Dolores, and then he talks about how he had sent Dolores over to talk to probate to try to find out whatever she could about the will. Whenever they get done arguing, basically, he talks about how she says that the will hasn't arrived yet, and that if it doesn't arrive by midnight, then Cloverleaf is going.
Toontown is going to be up for auction, and Cloverleaf has already put like this huge what's the word I'm looking for?
The bid on it.
Yeah, big bid. They've already put like a huge bid on Toontown, and if they don't have the wheel by midnight tonight, Cloverleaf will own Toontown.
Right.
They do a terrible job of talking about it though, because Jessica Rabbit's sitting right there in her car listening. The weasels are right below them in like a manhole cover listening to them. Mm-hmm. Like everybody knows what's going on now.
Mm-hmm. So then we hear where there's some musical stuff going on in the bar. And it's Roger in there doing some singing and dancing for all the drunken reprobates. And so we hear, oh God, what is it? He's in there singing about the stupid, his called Merry Go Round Broke Down, I guess is the name of the record. But he keeps smashing himself in the head with plates and stuff like that.
Well, and even a part like the record just skipping.
Yeah, he keeps smashing himself every time it skips.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Of course, at that point, the weasels were down in the manhole cover, or below in the manhole, and so you can only assume Judge Doom is on his way.
Right, which he is. He's there pretty promptly.
Is it just me, or are you having a hard time not saying Judge Dredd? That's, oh man! Every time I say Judge Doom, I'm thinking Judge Dredd. But,
just you, I'm good. Judge Doom doesn't bother me at all.
Okay, fair enough. So they go back. Obviously, Eddie's trying to subdue Roger. He takes him back to the stupid speakeasy room and tell him to be quiet. Of course, right then they see the little buzzer go off or whatever. Dolores is basically alerting them that Judge Doom has arrived. And so he offers $500 for anybody that knows anything about Roger's whereabouts.
He uses, this shows you what kind of person you're dealing with Judge Doom. He uses a soldier. He's wearing his uniform. His arm is amputated. Right? So
he's got a purple heart.
Yeah, he's got a purple heart on it. So he's got like a floppy sleeve. And he uses this soldier's sleeve as an eraser for a chalkboard.
Right.
So they give us a $500 reward. He starts looking around. He sees the record. He sees the merry-go-round breakdown record. So he knows there's a tune is there.
Right.
So he breaks out the no tune can resist shave and a haircut.
Shave and a haircut. Yeah. That's it right there. And of course, right after that, that's when Valiant's like, this dude's nuts, man. And you can see Roger over there in the corner, like, really struggling to not finish the shave and a haircut deal. The stupid, it's not even a rhyme. I don't know what that's from, but
it's an old entertainment thing, I think.
Yeah, an old vaudeville type deal, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, so eventually he does it. Roger busts out through the wall and finishes the 2 bits. And,
2 bits.
Yeah. And that's Judge Doom gets a hold of him. And he's about to dip Roger, actually, in the dip. And that's whenever Eddie gets the idea to give him a double shot of bourbon. And, of course, that's Roger reluctantly drinks the bourbon and starts freaking out. All the bottles shatter and everything. Everybody's blown backward. And Eddie Valiant pushes over the dip and the dip can, and then they both escape.
They get into the paddy wagon that the Weasels were driving.
Right.
They can't find the keys. Roger looks in the back, and there's Benny. Benny's a cartoon cab.
Yeah, I love Benny. He's great.
So they jump inside of Benny, and they take off.
Mm-hmm.
Car chase. They're being chased by the Weasels and the cops.
Yeah. One thing noteworthy is that whenever Roger's hopping in through the window of the paddy wagon, that the little love note that he wrote for Jessica pops out of his pocket, and Eddie Valiant sticks it in his pocket real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess maybe I won't go into it too much, but knowing what we know about Judge Doom, I think that there's a couple of little hints early on in the movie that kind of allude to his actual identity. Fairly early on. Did you pick up on any of that?
How careful he is with the dip.
Yeah. And like whenever Eddie Valiant like kicks over the barrel of it or whatever, you see like, he like staggers backward, like he doesn't want to touch it at all, and stuff like that.
Right.
But, yeah.
I do think that that's not an accident. They show us that.
Yeah. So that it all kind of ties itself together at the end. But yeah.
Yeah, because it happens really suddenly when we get there.
Yeah, it does. Anyway, the Weasels and Benny the cab get into a car chase.
Cops are chasing too.
Yeah, the cops are chasing too. Long story short, Benny and Roger and Eddie Valiant get away.
They pull the lever.
Yeah, which like raises him up high. Yeah, and so he's like, "What's in the middle of a song?" He's like, "A bridge." Yeah, all that stuff. Pretty good.
Then they make it to the movie theater.
He tells Eddie, he's like, "If you ever need a ride, stick out your thumb." And that's yeah. That actually does come back later on in the movie, but. But, yeah, they hide out in a movie theater. They're watching a Goofy short cartoon before the movie starts. So...
Roger Rabbit says Goofy's the best in the business.
I kind of almost have to agree. I love Goofy, man. Fantastic.
Eddie tells Roger Rabbit all about his brother.
Mm-hmm.
The killer had burning red eyes and a high squeaky voice.
Yeah, they were following this Toon. I guess he robbed a bank in Toontown. And they followed him to this warehouse or whatever, and that's whenever the Toon dropped a piano on his brother's head. But yeah, he had the red eyes and the squeaky thing and all that, and they never found him. And so that's whenever Roger's like, "Well, that's why you hate me," and all this other stuff. And so they kind of reconcile a little bit. Dolores meets him there at the theater. She tells Eddie that they got the bags packed, and he's like, "You should find a good guy." And she's like, "I already found one," and all that. And so they're getting ready to leave. They look, and there's a newsreel that's playing in the background. And apparently there's a real estate deal that's been made between RK Maroon and the Cloverleaf executives. And I guess at that point, Eddie kind of has an idea what's been going on this whole time. So elaborate on that for us, Mike. Tell us what happens.
So they go to Maroon Studios.
Right.
Eddie tells Roger to keep a lookout for him and don't let make sure he lets everybody know or lets him know if anyone shows up.
Right.
And Roger is like, "I got it, no problem." And boom, he gets hit in the head with the frying pan immediately.
Apparently, Eddie's told RK Maroon that he has the will and he's going to give it to him. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
So he goes in there. He sees Maroon. Maroon's like a sweaty mess. He wants the will,
yeah.
And Valiant is using the love letter that Roger wrote Jessica as the fake will. Mm-hmm. He's like, "It's right here in my pocket." Maroon wants it. we see that Jessica Rabbit actually is the one who hit Roger Rabbit with the frying pan, and that she's put him in her trunk of her car.
Right.
Then he wants to know what Cloverfield's involvement is, right? Valiant's trying to figure out what's going on with Cloverfield. Maroon won't tell him anything, so he puts his tie in like a film reel. And he starts to crank him in there. He's like interrogating him.
That's when RK Maroon, he's like, I don't want to make a deal with Cloverleaf, really. He said, I just wanted the will. He said, because he didn't want it to actually fall, I guess, into the hands of Cloverleaf. But he said, I love the Toons. I worked with them my entire life. He said, I don't want anything to happen to Toontown. And then it's right after that he gets shot by a mysterious gunman.
I mean, his whole career has been built on making cartoons.
Yeah, that's it right there. You bet. So, let's see what happens next. Eddie Valiant, he doesn't actually see who the gunman was that shot RK Maroon, but he looks out the window and he sees Jessica Rabbit running around, so he assumes that she's the shooter. So he follows her in her car, basically. And then we get to the moment that everybody's been waiting for. We get to see Toontown.
Just before he gets into Toontown, he opens up a box and gets a gun that was gifted to him from Yosemite Sam.
Yeah, Toon Gun.
Yeah, he got Toon Gun and the Toon Bullets, which all have racial inappropriate bullets.
Right. There's the cowboys and the Indians and all this stuff.
And
he actually takes his bottle of booze.
That's what I was trying to say.
Go ahead.
To show us what the bullets do, because the bullets are all talking and stuff. He throws an empty bottle. Oh, he pours out the rest of his booze. I guess he's done drinking. He pours it all out, throws the bottle up, shoots one of the Indian bullets up at the bottle, and the Indian bullet's like, oh, and just as he gets to it, he blacks out a big tomahawk and chops the bottle in half.
Yeah. I actually really like that moment from Bob Hoskins because he's about to take a drink, and then he looks at it. And I think that at this point, he's sitting there thinking, I'm back in this, I don't have to drink anymore, And so he kind of just, looks at it and then pours it out, I don't need this crap, It was like a mental thing almost, like a crutch of his, Yeah. But it's a nice little scene.
So, he, like you said, he drives into Toontown and we get this fantastic opening number from the cartoons, welcoming Eddie.
It's really great, too. Because the opening number is great, but driving up through the tunnel to go into Toontown, there's this super suspenseful music that's playing. You can see at the end of the tunnel, there's this red curtain. And so you're like, oh my God, what's about to happen? They do a great job of building it up. And then all of a sudden there's this goofy song number that they do, It's the sun is singing to him. The birds are welcoming him and stuff like that. It's great.
Yeah, they're like, hello, Eddie. Everybody knows his name.
Right. I love it. He winds up getting in a car wreck pretty much right off the bat out of the middle of nowhere. There's a lot of running around stuff that takes place in Toontown. I probably won't elaborate too much. But right after he wrecks his car, he looks up. He sees in this apartment building there's a silhouette in the window that he thinks is Jessica Rabbit. He goes into the building. He goes up to that floor, and it turns out this woman that is very curvaceous, but not much going on in the face department.
Dopey is our bellman in the elevator.
Droopy.
Droopy. Yeah, Droopy.
Yeah, Droopy Dog.
Yeah, Droopy Dog is our bellman, and we find out real quick that things aren't the same in Toontown.
Right.
Eddie now has cartoon physics.
Traits, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, things are just different in Toontown.
Right.
So, he gets smashed at the bottom of the elevator.
Mm-hmm. Later on, he's falling, and whenever he falls, this woman catches him, and he's fine, and, he gets slammed to the top of the elevator. There's some wonky stuff going on. Yeah.
It's my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah. Well, I could even see as a kid, this whole movie, you hear about Toontown, and you can kind of see some stuff going on over the wall, and then you finally get there, and you're like, man, I've been waiting for this. I want to see what's going on here, Yeah,
it's pretty cool. So, he sees this girl you talked about. She is built like Jessica, but she's crazy. And she's from other cartoons. I can't remember what they were.
Oh, but I can tell you.
Her line is, a man.
A man. Yeah.
and she starts like chasing him around.
Right. He tries to run from her. He runs through this door. Turns out there's nothing behind it. He falls, and that's where we see Mickey and Bugs Bunny.
But he doesn't fall right away. He just kind of hovers like cartoons.
Right. Like a
and after he realizes he's going to fall, then he starts to fall, but his hat stays up there. Mm-hmm. So he has time to reach up and grab his hat and then pull it back down to his head as he's falling.
Yeah.
Cartoon physics, I call it. Right. Yeah, so then Mickey and Bugs join him on the skydive.
Mm-hmm. The longest fall ever.
Yeah. I love because Mickey and Bugs are like messing with Valiant. Like, they both have parachutes on.
Right.
But he doesn't have one, and Mickey's like, well, I don't have a spare, but Bugs has a spare.
Yeah.
And Bugs is like, oh, you don't want the spare. He's like, give me the spare.
Yeah, I do
want the
it.
spare.
Yeah.
Yeah. He gives it to him. It's a fucking spare tire.
Right. I love it. So I guess the whole idea is whenever, because this was put out by Disney. I guess technically Touchstone Pictures, but it's owned by Disney. And so the whole idea was that they were like, hey, if we want equal screen time between our two major players animation wise, and so that would have been Bugs Bunny and Donald Duck, basically, or Daffy Duck. And so that's why like Daffy and Donald share the same amount of screen time together, and Mickey and Bugs Bunny do as well. They're like, we want the same amount as like Mickey Mouse is gonna get, and so that's why they both share the same scene.
Well, you know, even if that wasn't like in the contract or whatever, like I still think that that's exactly how I would have did it.
I agree.
You know, you had your two ducks. They were always like your crazy ones and their own universes.
Right.
So, you know, of course they're together, and then your main characters, Mickey and Bugs, like, of course they have to be together.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. It's kind of like cartoon royalty that gets to share the same screen for this one time, you know. That's the only way you can do it, you know, from a narrative standpoint, you know. At least it's the best way to do it, but yeah. Anyway, long story short, he winds up falling out of the building. The crazy woman catches him. She's like, I'm a man, and all this stuff. So eventually he makes it into this dark alleyway. Oh, he takes the line from the road and like throws it against the wall, and she runs into the wall. It's pretty funny.
He says, "Tunes gets him every time."
Gets him every time. You bet.
So this is some trick he's used before.
Mm-hmm. Because he used to hang out here, obviously. Eddie goes down this dark alley, and then we see Jessica Rabbit, and she's pointing a gun, which looks like she's about ready to shoot him. And so anyway, she winds up shooting and hitting this mystery gunman that shot R.K. Maroon.
Well, she shot like the shadow.
Yeah, it's what it looked like. And then
like the shadow was getting ready to shoot Valiant, and she shot the shadow first or something.
Mm-hmm. And so,
but then when she shot the shadow, a gun did fall down on the ground.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's Toontown. It doesn't have to make sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, you hear him. He runs away. The unknown figure does, and he's like, "You'll never catch me," and all this other stuff. You could tell it's Judge Doom at that point. So they go back. They're gonna take a car and try to get a hold. Well, they go to her car because she apparently has stashed Roger in the trunk, and Roger isn't there. The trunk's wide open. Eddie Valiant assumes that Roger escaped and managed to take his car, and so they figure that they're going to hop in Benny the taxi cab, and that's where he like sticks out his thumb. He's like, "Well, my car's over there," and like, or no, she's like, "Let's go down this street," and he's like, "No, that street's over this way," and he sticks his thumb up, and that's when Benny shows up again. So it makes a very little difference, yeah. But Benny shows up. They decide they're going to take Benny out to go try to find Roger, and then right outside the tunnel is where we have Judge Doom, and he's basically waiting there with a barrel of dip that he pours all over the road, messes up Benny, and he winds up wrecking into a lamppost, and they fall.
And this is that scene that has been debated on the internet for, I don't know, since the existence of the internet, on whether you can see Jessica Rabbit's vagina or not in this scene.
Let's end the debate now. You used to be able to, but you can't anymore. So apparently in the theaters and on VHS, you could see up her skirt and see her reproductive stuff. But I guess for the DVD, they actually went through and reanimated it out of it, so you can't see it anymore.
I don't know how you can make the word vagina like more awkward.
So awkward, yeah.
Yeah, you said reproductive stuff.
Reproductive stuff. You know you like it, Mike.
It always it always just amazes me because you know how to take a moment that's a little uncomfortable and just make it extra creepy.
And just crank it up to a 10, man. That's it.
Personally, I never cared if you could see it.
Yeah, me neither.
It's a pencil line.
Cartoon vagina. I could draw one. That's fine. I'm sure I did when I was in middle school. But apparently, so Acme, before they crash, I guess she says that Marvin Acme actually told Jessica that Doom was trying to get his hands on Toontown, and he gave Jessica the will for safekeeping. But whenever she opened the envelope with the will in it, there wasn't anything written on it. And it just looked like a blank piece of paper, and she thought it was stupid and like got rid of it. She, I guess, cast aside the piece of paper. It is right after this, though, after they crash Benny the cab, that Doom winds up getting the weasels to grab him, basically, and take him to Marvin Acme's factory. And by the time they awaken, they have about 15 minutes until it hits midnight, and the will still hasn't shown up yet. And so he goes. Go ahead.
Doom tells the weasels to search Jessica. Oh, yeah. So the weasel like sticks his arm straight down her shirt, and there's like a
bear trap
in there, and he's like, booby traps.
Yeah, he's a nice booby trap. Yeah, that's pretty funny. So basically, he goes into this whole giant plan that he has concocted. That basically Cloverleaf he's the sole stock owner of Cloverleaf, which I think they actually allude to later on how he got the money to invest in Cloverleaf, but we don't know that yet. But he's the sole owner. Basically, he bought the trolley company so that he could just disassemble the company. And what he wants to do now is once he gets possession of Toontown, he basically wants to completely dismantle it, cover the whole thing in dip so that Toontown is a thing of the past, and then start building this freeway that goes through the right where Toontown used to be. And so that's kind of elaborate, but
and he's gonna put gas stations and dealerships and hotels and restaurants, and
he said billboards that stretch to the sky. Yeah,
he's gonna turn LA into what LA is, basically.
Right. He's like, it'll be beautiful. Yeah, this guy's getting off on the idea of this freeway, man. He loves it. But so
then Roger pops out of the sewer drain.
Yeah, he goes to try to save him. He gets flushed down the toilet and then pops up later on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's like threatening him. He's like, the law's gonna hit you like a ton of bricks. And then one of the weasels like drops these bricks on him, basically.
It's a ton of bricks.
Mm-hmm.
It actually is labeled "ton of bricks."
Right.
And then he sees stars.
Yeah, finally. It was pretty funny. So Judge Doom ties Roger Rabbit and Jessica Rabbit up together. He has this giant machine that he's built.
When speaking about the both of them, I like to say the rabbits.
The rabbit family.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Pretty good. What is it? He has this giant machine that he's built that basically takes this like steaming hot dip, and it basically is this mobile dip squirter thing, you know.
It's got scrub brushes and stuff. It looks like a farming combine.
It does. I call it the dip cannon.
Dip cannon's got a big cannon on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely meant to wipe out tunes.
Mm-hmm. He's gonna hose down Roger and Jessica first, while Eddie Valiant watches, and then basically it's gonna plow through the wall of Acme's factory and then just squirt all over Toontown, basically destroying everything in a matter of minutes. He says. And so we see where Doom like starts. There's these fake eyeballs that are all over the floor, and he winds up tripping on them. And whenever he falls, he like looks up, but he's like covering his eye, and you're like, "What does this have to do with his eye?" You know?
What does it have to do with his eye?
I think that whenever he fell, because he's spoiler alert, because we're about to go into it anyway. But so Judge Doom is a toon, and he has these fake eyes that he has put into his head, basically, to cover up his toon eyes. And so basically what you're looking at is whenever he winds up tripping on the eyeballs, then whenever he trips on the eyeballs, I think that what happened was he wound up hitting his head and it popped out one of his eyes, and so he's like covering it up because he's still trying to keep it under wraps that he's a toon. But
oh, so you think he lost an eyeball?
yeah, I think one of them popped out, and so that's all it was.
Oh.
But it's right after that Eddie Valiant. So Judge Doom goes to like fix his eye or whatever, and then Valiant gets the idea is going to do this like vaudeville thing to make the weasels laugh themselves to death, basically. And so he's doing all this crazy stuff. He's like throwing these bowling balls up in the air, and like they bounce off of his head, and he just keeps injuring himself, basically until the weasels all laugh themselves to death.
Which doesn't take much. They die pretty quick.
Yeah, they do. I'm surprised they did. Yeah, you would think that they would have died a long time ago, but one of the weasels that's dying actually engages the dip cannon, and so it's aiming closer and closer to Roger and Jessica, or the rabbits as you call them, while it moves forward. But Eddie manages to put a stop to the machine right as Judge Doom gets the drop on him.
Yeah, Doom and Valiant are getting ready to have a sword fight.
I love Valiant's sword.
But Valiant's sword is Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, it's the singing sword, I think it said on the box.
Yeah.
He pulls it out and it's just singing the stupid Sinatra song. It's really funny. Meanwhile, Doom manages to go through and he turns the machine back on, and so it's once again going to spray the rabbitses. So what is it? Oh, he goes through at one point. Eddie Valiant finds a magnet, and he's trying to take away Judge Doom's his sword. Yeah,
Oh.
And
it's the same scene, right? Right after the Frank Sinatra sword, he grabs a magnet.
Oh, okay.
And he goes to magnet the sword, but he can't control the fucking magnet. It flips over on him and pins him to a barrel of dip.
Yeah. And then, oh god, what is it right after that? Basically, Judge Doom's like coming at him. He uses the stupid hole to like break through the magnet, basically let himself
Doom's
out.
coming at him with a giant roller.
Yeah, that's what it is.
A steamroller machine.
Mm-hmm.
He uses the portable wall to get out of the magnet, like just before the roller gets to him.
I love the steamroller thing, man. It's good stuff.
And he throws like a thing of glue at Doom. Valiant throws glue at Doom. He gets it on his hand, which causes him to get stuck on the roller.
Yeah.
And then his foot is stuck in glue, and he sticks that against the roller to try to pull his hand off. Basically, the roller rolls over Doom.
Right.
Flattens him like a pancake.
This is where I was watching it going, I don't know if my kid would be okay with this, man, because it's like Christopher Lloyd is pretty, he's pretty crazy looking when he's getting ran over by this thing, you know? Like, he's all screaming and stuff, and you can see his face is shaking, and yeah, it's pretty, for not seeing anything, it's kind of out there, man, but...
yeah, he gets flattened, flat as can be, but then stands up.
Mm-hmm. And it's right after that yeah, Eddie turns off the dip machine again. We do see where Doom stands up, like you were saying, and he uses a little air tank to like reinflate himself because he's flat as a piece of paper. Yeah.
You see his eyes.
Mm-hmm. And that's when he reveals that he's the one that's actually killed Eddie's brother, and he has the red eyes and all that, and he has the really high pitched voice, and he actually makes swords with his eyes, and so yeah, he starts chasing Eddie around. He what is it that he has at first? He uses something. I don't remember what, but he's making different objects out of his hands, basically.
He made like a big hammer, I think.
Yeah, maybe. I wanted to say that's what it was, like a mallet or something.
Yeah, and then he punches the shit out of Valiant, which makes him fly across the warehouse.
Right. and then he comes at him with the table saw for a hand looking thing.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's whenever Valiant gets the bright idea that he's going to use the hammer with the boxing glove in it. And he manages to, like, punch. It goes right past Judge Doom, but it winds up hitting this lever on the dip tank. And so this whole thing just unloads all over Judge Doom and dissolves him into nothing, you know.
He does the whole, I'm melting.
Right. Yeah.
This
It's pretty
is the
great.
second movie we've had in the last 3 weeks that did that.
What was? Oh, yeah, we did the Batman thing, yeah.
Yeah, the Joker did it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So basically, all the dip and stuff is gone out of the machine. So Roger and Jessica are in no immediate danger.
Well, Eddie sprays the
floor
water everywhere.
Yeah, opens the valve and gets rid of all the dip that's on the floor and everything. He lets them down. The tank crashes through the wall, and then it gets ran over by this Toon train. And so then they go and they check out all the Toons start coming out of Toontown, spilling through the wall. And they go and they look at Doom's remains. And they're like, man, this isn't a rabbit, you know, and Mouse would have never done this and so forth, you know. It's pretty funny. But then right after that, we find out that apparently the will was written on, or Eddie looks down at his shirt and he sees that the ink is reappearing ink, because he has this big old ink spot on his shirt from the very beginning of the movie where Marvin Acme like squirted his shirt. And Roger Rabbit's like, oh, here's what it is. And he's like, it's reappearing ink. And so we find out that apparently the will was written in this reappearing ink, and Roger had it this entire time on that little love note. And so basically they got a hold of the will in enough time, and so it's not midnight yet. Basically the Toons all decide that they're going to celebrate getting a hold of the will and now being in ownership of Toontown. And so they all start singing a song, and that's when we see Eddie and Dolores walk into Toontown, and Porky Pig coins the phrase.
That's all, folks.
Yeah, that's all, folks. But that right there, that's all from us too. So, what'd you think of the movie?
I'm really disappointed in us, man. In a movie full of so much funny stuff, we weren't very funny.
No, we really weren't. That's why I say we're funnier whenever it's a bad movie, I think.
Yeah. It's just like, I mean, we just went through and just pretty much told you what happened.
The plot.
What I think of the movie, I like the movie. It's a good movie.
I agree.
Should we stop doing good movies?
I'm kind of tempted, actually.
Start doing the worst movie of the week exactly 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so far, 1998's given us a lot to work with, so...
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So we gotta stop picking such good movies.
I agree. So the thing, I guess, that I was kind of... whenever you said that you were concerned that this movie wasn't going to hold up, what was your take on it after watching it again?
Oh, it held up. It held up great.
I agree. Well, once again, I saw it pretty recently. It was on Hulu, so I watched it, I want to say, a 3 weeks ago. But yeah, it's great. It's a great movie. And it's held up perfectly, in my opinion. Once again, I think that it being based in like the late 40s kind of makes it so that it fits into like a time capsule, so that it really doesn't have to be timeless, you know. So, but no, it's good stuff all around.
I liked it. It's really good. I like the cultural stuff that they talk about, like with the change in LA from public transportation to automobile communities with freeways, and
yeah.
I love California and I love Southern California, but I mean that's a lot of what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only California I've ever known.
Right.
It was like that my whole life, so I don't know any different. Mm-hmm. But the cartoons are really funny.
Yeah.
Roger Rabbit is annoying as hell and awesome at the same time.
I agree. Bob Hoskins, on the other hand, is a godsend, because I think that there's a very long list of actors that could have really screwed this up, but I thought that he was great in it, you know, all around. So,
yeah. Kathleen Turner's voice like is perfect for Jessica Rabbit.
I agree. She's great. The guy Charles Fleischer that did Roger Rabbit's voice, he was awesome. Like great performances all around.
I was trying to do some of Roger Rabbit's voice last night, and I was not doing a very good job of it. I was messing with my kiddo, and I was trying to do it.
Yeah, we heard your Australian accent. I'm sure it was wonderful, Mike.
I'm better at cartoon voices than I am at accents.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
You'll never find out, though.
No, I will find out. But, yeah, so long story short, I thought that this was all around a great movie. Stands up well. And that's all I got to say about that pretty much, so.
Yeah, my little one was in here again.
Right.
I guess her mom went to the store and was like, you can stay home with your dad.
Wonderful. But, yeah, no, good movie. Good movie. We do get to jump next week, though, back into the swing of things because next week we are going to be watching The Truman Show. Jim Carrey.
Oh, so. I like that movie.
Yeah. Once again, a movie that I watched not terribly long ago. So, but yeah, I guess we'll see how it stands up. I already know my opinion on it, but we'll get into it.
Have you seen anything new lately?
New movie wise?
Yeah.
On Netflix or just
or
in general?
wherever.
Well, the last movie me and the wife watched was the A Quiet Place.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
Oh man, it's good. It's good. But lately on, just around and about, because me and the wife periodically will get a chance to sit down and watch a show. We actually started watching Evil Genius is the name of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the documentary on Netflix.
It's only 4 episodes long.
Yeah. I was really getting into it, and we've watched the first 3, and then I found out there were only 4, and I was like, oh, well... It kind of took the wind out of my sail, but whatever.
Yeah, I was stunned when it was over. I was like, that's it?
Yeah.
I've already watched that.
Oh, okay. What about you guys?
See, last night, Farrah did a sleepover at her friend's house. So we were able to watch 50 Shades Freed.
Oh, did a little Netflix and chill, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I can't do those 50 Shades, man.
Dude, it's, you know what? I like, I've seen all 3 of them, okay?
Okay.
And, because Nicole really wanted me to watch the first one with her. Yeah. But after I watched the first one, I was just like, man, it's just like 2 hot people fucking the whole movie.
Right.
Like, that's literally what it is. It's this really good-looking woman and this pretty good-looking dude, and they're just hooking up the whole movie long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird, too, like, watching it because, like, they show him, like, sucking her breasts and, like, being aggressive with her genitalia. It's like softcore porn.
Yeah.
And I was just like, how is this a movie franchise?
Right. Yeah.
This isn't just, like, a one-off, like, B film. This is a movie franchise, a trilogy,
it is.
if you would.
It's funny because my wife read those books, and she... after watching the first movie, she was like, that sucked. I have no interest in the others at all. But I find it interesting. Somebody online, I think it was Facebook, pointed out, they said, so the only thing that makes this movie the least bit like romantic or whatever is the fact that he's a billionaire. They said if this was some redneck with like $20 to his name that lived in a trailer park, everybody would just see this guy as the biggest pervert ever, you know?
Oh, yeah, this dude's a baller out of control.
Yeah.
Like, so in the third one, they get married.
Yeah.
He takes her on, like, a honeymoon that's literally, like, gallivanting around the globe. Going to all the coolest places, most exotic locations, best hotels, yachting, like, all the great shit. Like, who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty legit.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I would like that. If you haven't watched it yet, I would also recommend Broadchurch on Netflix, because we just finished that. Oh, it's a good show, man. It's pretty. So the guy that's in it, David Tennant, he was on Doctor Who for a while, which I don't watch, but he has a really thick Scottish accent, and so like I actually, believe it or not, had to turn on the subtitles. Like I have no idea what this guy's talking about. But
oh god.
Yeah, if you can get past that though, it's really good stuff. But
cool.
Yeah. Now I will say that if you guys want to tell us what you're watching, or if you don't, or if you have something that you feel is pertinent, then you can always email us, cheesymovie@yahoo.com. Facebook page is Casino Royale with Cheese, all separate words, all spelled out. Twitter, Casino Royale WCH, all one word. YouTube, Casino Royale with W Cheese, all one word. Instagram, Casino Royale W Cheese, all one word. And wherever you get your podcast, just do a quick search. It'll be Casino Royale W Cheese, all one word, and you can find us there. But I think that's about it from me, buddy.
That's it, dude. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to really contribute to Roger Rabbit.
It's straightforward. It's a good movie. Yeah. What's there to say about it? Go watch it, you know. I guarantee if you haven't seen it, you'll have a good time with it. Because
my little girl turns 5 in 2 months, and she watched the thing from the beginning to the end, and she enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good story, great acting. From a technical level, the movie's fantastic. Like, there's, you know, I thought that the whole, like, take on the societal woes and stuff like that of, like, the 40s was interesting. But looking back at it, I was like, I guess I could have picked something else, because ain't much to say. Like, if we were watching like Batman and Robin, I would have a lot more to say, you know. So
right.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe we'll talk about it someday. But
maybe.
In the meantime, though, again, I do appreciate you all watching, and I guess we'll see you next time.
See ya. Bye.
I'll be back.